Hi everybody, welcome back to Clues by Sam. We have a evil one today to start March with a hell of a kick. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it is a daily logic puzzle game where there are 20 people on a board, each of which is either a criminal or an innocent, and you gotta figure out what each person is using the clues that they themselves give you. The puzzle changes in difficulty along the week, so tomorrow, Monday, we're gonna have an easy one. If you don't want to try this one out and start tomorrow, then that's okay and actually recommend it. So there is a link in the description to take you to the daily puzzle if you want to do so. And I'm going to start mine right now and explain my logic as I go. So I'm really excited. Let's go. We start with Uma telling us that exactly 2 instances in column C are neighboring Savvy. So column C, two people neighbor Savvy in that column, which means that both of them have to be instant. That was a good one, an easy one to start. Now, row tells us that an odd number of instances in column D are Laura's neighbors. Laura has 3 people neighboring her in column D, so either all 3 of them are instances or just one of them to make odd numbers. One that says there are exactly 4 instances in column D. So since there are 5 people in column D, then that means that in order for there to be 4 instances, there's only one criminal. How could there be only one criminal? And could that one criminal neighbor Laura? Let's say that that criminal is one of Laura's neighbor in column B. That would make the other 2 instances, right? So we can total the 4 people who are instances in that column. And now Laura doesn't have an odd number of instances neighboring her. So that means that the single criminal in column D doesn't neighbor Laura. It's either Savvy or Erwin, who's the single criminal. The other people are all innocents. That looks good to me. Now we have 3 new clues. Ike's telling us that there are more instances in column A than column C. Okay, we don't know how many are there in any of those columns yet, so let's leave that there. Nick says that only one of the 2 criminals neighboring Hazel is in row 1. So Hazel has 3 people neighboring her in row 1. Only one of those is a criminal. And Hazel has only 2 criminals total, which means that she has 6 instances neighboring her because she has 8 neighbors. Since we don't know who of these 3 people is an innocent yet and who is a criminal, then let's leave that there and look at Steve's clue. Exactly 1 instant below Brian is neighboring Flora. Where's Brian? 2 people below Brian neighbor Flora. Only one of those is an innocent, right? So that means, let's use orange here. That means that this is Hazel's second innocent neighbor. Innocent. Hazel's second criminal neighbor, sorry, because Hazel only has 2 criminal neighbors total. So we know that one of them is in row 1. The second one is either going to be Gabe or Katie, which means that Laura couldn't be a criminal. So she is an innocent. And now, Laura says that row 2 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals. And we are talking about rows. What do we have to think about then? We know that there is one criminal here in row 1, right? Who's either going to be Brian or Derek or Erwin. And whomever that is, that will make the other 2 instances. What does that make of Anna? If Anna were to be a criminal as well, that would make row 1 have 2 criminals, and that couldn't happen. We need only row 2 to have 2 criminals, so Anna has to be an innocent. Good. Now, Anna says there are more criminals in column B than column D. We know that there's only one criminal in column in column D, because that's either Erwin or Savvy, so that's only one criminal. Which means that column B has to have at least 2. So far it has 1. Is there any other clues talking about column B? No. It could be that column B has 3 criminals. That's more than 1 for sure. So how do we disambiguate that? Let's make both Peter and Brian criminals. What happens then with Derek and Irving? Both of them are innocents. And we know there are more innocents in column A than column C. So we would need Hazel to be a criminal, because if she were an innocent, there would be no way for column A to have more innocents than column C, since both of them would have the most people possible being innocents. That's one of the things. And since we know the row 2 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals. I'm not sure. That will make Olive an innocent, because row 4 couldn't have 2 criminals. We would know that either Flora or Gabe would have to be the second criminal for row 2. Oh, everybody here actually would have to be innocent, right? Because there's one criminal only in column C, and column A would have to have less than that. So that will make Gabe a criminal. That solves the whole puzzle, technically. Oh, Katie's an innocent. Does that solve the whole puzzle? There are more criminals in column B than column D. So there's no reason for Brian and Peter both not to be criminals. Of course, we know that both of them couldn't be innocents. Right? Could we make Brian an innocent? And if Brian is innocent, somebody else here has to be a criminal. Let's say that that's Derek. If it is Derek, then there could be one criminal in column A. I don't think that's what I have to look at. I think we're putting too many people in such a small scenario, so we gotta think about what we look at here. Row 1 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals, we know that. And we know that row 2 is the only row with exactly 2 criminals. Row 1 has only 1 criminal. Hazel has 2 criminals neighboring her, one of which is in row 1. There are more instances in column A than column C. Column C so far could only have 2 criminals at most. But one of these people has to be a criminal, at least. Either Derek or Hazel. Is that what we have to be trying to figure out? Because, like, let's try to make Hazel an innocent and Derek a criminal. That will make both of these guys innocents. Yeah, that wouldn't work. Why wouldn't that work? Because Hazel being an innocent, and we know that row 2 is the only row with 2 criminals. Hazel being an innocent forces both Gabe and Flora to be criminals. And now there's no way for column A to have more innocents than column C. Because even if everybody else is an innocent in column A, both of them have the same number of innocents. So Hazel couldn't be an innocent. She has to be a criminal. And now we know that Flora and Gabe are one an innocent, the other one a criminal. Now Hazel says that all criminals in column B are connected. criminals. So knowing that there are more criminals in column B than column D, and that there has to be at least 2 criminals in column B, if Katie is a criminal, Peter would have to be a criminal. If Gabe is a criminal, it doesn't matter. Oh, if Gabe is a criminal, Brian has to be a criminal. So what happens here? If Katie is a criminal, Gabe is for sure an innocent, and Peter would have to for sure be a criminal. If Katie is an innocent, Gabe would for sure be a criminal, which would force Brian to be a criminal. So there's only 2 criminals in column B. We know that now for sure. Which makes Brian one or the other? Does it? Brian with Peter? Because let's say that I'm using the lower text, but let's use the upper text and try to confirm this. Let's say that Brian is a criminal. That will force Gabe to be a criminal as well, Katie to be an innocent, and Peter to be an innocent. So now Brian and Peter are opposites. And if you were the other scenario, if Brian were an innocent, yeah, that will force Katie to be an innocent. Katie to be a criminal, actually. And Peter to be a criminal, so that makes Brian and Peter opposites. Okay, this is correct. How does that help me, though? Only one of the 2 criminals neighboring Hazel. We know that. What do we know? What do we know? Because we know that these 2 guys are opposites as well. So let's say that Gabe is a criminal, which would make Brian a criminal, and both of these guys innocent. Both of these guys innocent, and Flora an innocent. How's that now? Hazel has 2 criminals neighboring her. That's okay. That's expected. What if it were the opposite? What if Brian is a criminal, which makes Gabe a criminal, and Katie and Peter innocents? Isn't that what I tried right now? What if Brian is an innocent, Gabe is then an innocent? That will make Katie a criminal and Peter a criminal. Now the thing is, neither of these 2 rows could have a second criminal, because row 2 is the only one with 2 criminals. So both Joy and Olive would have to be innocents because of Katie and Peter. And also, Hazel would have to have a second innocent neighbor up here who's either Derek or Irving. Could be Derek. Nope. Why? If Derek is a criminal, Irving is an innocent, which would make Xavier a criminal. It does work, actually, if Derek's a criminal. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 innocents here in column A. And that's more than what's in column C. But if Derek is an innocent and Irving is a criminal, that makes Xavier an innocent. And now there's no way for column A to have more innocents than column C. So what are we looking at here with all of this that I just presented? All of this that I just brought to the table? What does this show us? Hmm? Erwin, Derek, Brian. Derek couldn't be an innocent. But I'm not convinced that it's Derek that we should be looking at. I think it's about Gabe and Brian. Maybe it's Irving. Maybe it's Irving. Because making Irving a criminal is what caused the whole thing to crumble, right? If Irving is a criminal, Derek and Brian both have to be innocents. And because of Brian being an innocent, Gabe would have to be an innocent as well. Because if Gabe is a criminal, that will make Katie an innocent. And now there's two criminals who are isolated in column B, which couldn't happen. So Brian being an innocent forces Gabe to be an innocent, which makes these two criminals. And these two being criminals forces Joy and Olive both to be innocents. Gabe being an innocent forces Flora to be a criminal. Erwin being a criminal forces Xavier to be an innocent. And now the thing is, there's no way for column A to have. So everybody here was forced. From Erwin, the ripple came and forced everybody to be what they are right now. And in this scenario, in this forced scenario that is going to have to happen if Erwin is a criminal, there's no way for column A to have more innocents than column C. So we couldn't have Erwin be a criminal. He has to be an innocent. That makes Xavier a criminal. And that makes Derek and Brian opposites. Now, Xavier says that, should I mark them as opposites? I don't think I need to, but okay. Xavier says that only one person in a corner has exactly one criminal neighbor. Oh, we also know that Tina is an innocent now because row 5 couldn't have two criminals, so Tina has to be an innocent. So only one person in a corner has exactly one criminal neighbor, and that's not himself because he doesn't have any criminal neighbors. And we have to look at Erwin, I guess, again, and Anna. Because the thing is, if Brian is a criminal, that forces Gabe to be a criminal, right? And Brian being a criminal forces Derek to be an innocent, and it also forces these two to be innocents. Now, Flora is gonna be an innocent for sure, because row 2 has two criminals only. Now, Erwin is the person who has one criminal neighbor only. Anna has two, Xavier has none. If everybody else here is an innocent, that's okay. Tina doesn't have one innocent or one criminal neighbor only. So that's great. Puzzle solved. If, on the other hand, we cancel all this, and we make Brian an innocent, and Derek a criminal. Wait a damn minute. Go back. Go back. Why go back? Because I haven't looked at how many instances were there in column A as opposed to column C. And there's more instances in column A than column C in this scenario. So that works. That works. Erwin is the only one with one criminal neighbor. And there's more instances in column A than column C. And of course, there's more criminals in column B than column D because we know there's gonna happen. There's no way that doesn't happen. So we try the opposite. We try Brian being criminal and Derek an innocent, right? Is that it? We try Brian being an innocent and Derek a criminal. That's the case. Now, Gabe is an innocent, which makes both Katie and Peter criminals. And because of those two, Joy and Olive both have to be innocents. And we need another criminal here in column B. In column A, sorry. Now, there is more instance in column A, 1, 2, 3, 4, then column C, 1, 2, 3. But we have 2 people with only 1 criminal neighbor in a corner. We also, yeah, we have 2. Because Erwin has 2 criminal neighbors in a corner. And Anna is in a corner, but she has 1. And Tina has 1. So it doesn't work. Derek has to be an innocent, which makes Brian a criminal, which makes Gabe a criminal, which makes Katie an innocent, which makes Peter an innocent. And that is a lot. That is a lot. Now we take the tags off and we look at Hazel School. We don't need Hazel School anymore. Did we get a new clue? Oh yeah, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 instants in column C, so we need 5 instants in column A. That means that everybody is an instant, and we are done. That was a pretty easy Evo. In 21 minutes. I'm very proud about this. Very proud about my where I had to look at and how I related everybody that needed to be related. That was really good. Only 25% others have a perfect solve. Yeah, so apparently it was evil, but it was really, really good. I hope I could help you understand where to look at and how the logic comes together. I think a good tell is when you have too many people too early being put in a scenario. You kind of have to think about, okay, the puzzle is not going to be solved so early, considering how hard it is. So sometimes you take a step back and maybe try to think in a smaller scope, who's going to be affected by who. So it was really nice, really good, really good. And I'm going to try to record the bonus puzzles one. I'm going to try to record the bonus puzzles from last week right now because, like I said yesterday, I'm going to be away on a work trip this week, so I'm not going to be able to post the daily videos. So I'm going to leave some pre-recorded ones so we can keep doing them. And yeah, I'll leave this one here. Oh, and I'll be live streaming 2 hidden object games today and 1 investigation one, I think. So if you want to join the stream later today, you're welcome to do so too. I will be pretty happy about that. We can have a chat and we can solve some puzzles together. So I'll see you later if you come, or tomorrow. Bye bye.